Now, I understand that you came to a plant-based vegan lifestyle in your 40s for your health specifically, not
Ooh.
as an ethical vegan, not
Mhm.
for climate, but for you.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to just tell that story. What motivated you to get there?
I'm glad you're asking me that. My husband, I met Rondo in 1990, in the spring of 1990. Now, I was singing, girl. I had been, to Japan, um, thinking that was going to be my thing, singing. And when I met him, the very first date was pretty wild to me. Takes me up to Griffith Park to do this run. He runs the whole thing backwards. And then after, yeah,
This isn't the first time I've heard that, but I still, I think he was doing it to
we're going
impress
up and
you.
up and up. And I'm like, so how many more inclines, I'm barely walking this thing. And then he takes me to his place and he prepares what I consider my very first vegan meal,
Hmm.
because he had tofu to replace any animal flesh.
Hmm.
And he really knew how to make that tofu. It was already pressed. It was nice and tastes like chicken. I kept calling it chicken. And I was like, it has some more chicken. And it was a meal that did not affect me like I was normally affected after I ate. Like I had
Hmm.
a rough time digesting food. But of course, I drank Kool-Aid with the meal. I mean, I was a hot mess coming up. My mother put sugar in everything. So right then and there, everything was acidic. It was just bad combinations. I always had acid reflux. I was going to be one of these people that I need to medicate myself every time I eat, which is
Hmm.
nuts. We should not have to do that. We're
Hmm.
the only species that has to medicate after we eat because we don't know how to eat. So it's crazy. And this meal was so incredible. And then he gave me two books. But that's the lick right there. Understanding knowledge is power. Oh my God. I'm so glad he gave me the books. One book was Fit for Life. And Fit for Life, they're always talking to you. That volume one, it's all about food, proper food combining. Now, they're not telling you to be a vegan. They're just saying if you're gonna eat meat, you should eat it with veggies. If you're gonna eat potatoes, you should eat those with veggies. You should never eat the meat and the potatoes. They're just teaching you how to combine food. But then volume two started talking about the crap and the deodorant and the toothpaste and all that kind of stuff. And then the Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret. Once I read that book, I was like, oh my gosh, that is why I've been so messed up all my life. Eczema, asthma. I was really, really a wipeout coming up. And even as a young woman, every 30 days I'd get eczema in my face, lips
Hmm.
swollen, eyes swollen, the whole 9 yards, everything. I had a doctor that just gave me a cortisone cream every month. Just keep putting it on your face. Come on now. So once I had that meal and got that knowledge, eating became much friendlier. It had gotten to a point where I was almost scared to eat. I was miserable every time I ate. And this thing just and so of course I wasn't thinking about not one animal on the planet. No, I didn't even know I needed to think about an animal. I just know that he gave me a meal that didn't make me sick. But I'm gonna tell you what really got me going. Understanding my oneness with this whole thing, with
Hmm.
all of it. Understanding that if I hurt the cow, I'm getting ready to hurt me as well. It's just the way it is. And that is what is happening right now.
Hmm.
Once I began to understand my connection and focusing on that oneness, then I began to include the whole as a part of me.
Yeah, I think the way that we have grown accustomed to eating food. And I say grown accustomed because this is not how we evolved.
No, it's not.
We evolved as a hunter-gatherer society that migrated with often the herding animals that would migrate. We'd plan our seasonal food based on
Yes.
what was available around us.
Yes.
And meat was something of a condiment or of something that could get us through the winter months when there wasn't as
Exactly.
much
And there wasn't
vegetables or
exactly.
fruits or things like that around. And so the fact that we've had to get to a point where we need to understand things like food combining or have to sit there and take a pill in order to digest a meal without discomfort is really disheartening.
It is.
So, you know, we get to a place now where we understand that the concentrated animal feeding lots, they are creating all sorts of problems for us, not only from a health perspective, but also from an environmental perspective.
Yes.
Runoff into our lakes, rivers, and streams is affecting the health of our oceans. And we also have the negative side effect of all the methane produced through these concentrated animal feeding lots.
There you go.
So there's better ways to do this stuff. And we know the better ways to do this stuff, but it's not going to come without some effort on the part of people like us to say, okay, well, I'm either going to reduce my consumption of these types of foods, or I'm going to be so militant about my source that I'm going to be not a part of that problem. I'll go to the regenerative organic farming, foods that are available, or maybe I'll even return to hunting and get venison now and then or something to that effect. It's like either we do that or we stay in this sick state. And it can be either from a physical sick state because we aren't doing well with the food that we're eating.
Or both.
Or emotionally too, because we are trying to essentially look the other way, like, oh, if I don't see it, then it's not happening. Right.
But then the powers that be, the people that have the biggest voices are not really talking about everything that is creating the problem. They're not educating. And so you have an ignorant society. What is that ignorant society going to do if they don't have the info? They can't do anything. And that is why we speak whenever we can. We have to get the truth out, because as far as people are so ignorant right now about, oh my, seriously, it's incredible. And to the point that this may be terrible. I have girlfriends and we all go, man, I'm glad I'm in my 70s.
It is still hard for me to believe, Babette, that you are in your 70s. I mean, you are youthful, vivacious, something it might have to do with the plant-based eating, perhaps just a little bit.
It has so much to do with the plant-based eating, my dear. It has so much. Meeting Rondo, when I met Rondo, getting me to start moving, working out. I was about to turn 40. This was the spring. He was going to turn 42 in September. I was going to turn 40 in December. And that's how we hooked up. And because of that movement and that first meal, that is what made the difference. Now, I'm sure genetics has some bit to play on it. My mother was pretty good, even though she was a hot mess at 93. Her face never did crease up a lot and that sort of thing. And I'm sure melanin has a lot to do with it. But seriously, she was not on the journey that I'm on. She made me want to do something different because of her lifestyle. But girl, I'm telling you, right now, the ignorance is just, I posted something the other day and I was at a vegan event, Dr. Bobby Price. I don't know if you know him. I was at his event and I made a comment to somebody that said something about using the term vegan, and that I turned around and said, yeah, well, I'm vegan, I sell vegan, and I said something about make sure you have something live on your plate. I eat a salad, just eat a salad. Everything else is cooked, but eat a salad. Do you know how many people post it? Once you pick that apple, it's dead. They're not making the connection. I don't know how did we stop making the connection. Food nutrients. The nutrients represent the life in the apple. No, the apple's not going to get up and jog. But if you plant that seed in that apple, you're going to get life, the
Mm-hmm.
nutrients from the apple, whatever vitamins you get from the apple, whatever. I mean, that is the life represented in that apple. And they all say, I don't care what you pick, anything you pick is dead. You're getting
Well, I
nothing.
think there's another theoretical discussion there, right? Because one of the ways that you could define something as living is that it's in a state of change. And even in the process of decomposition, guess what's
Thank
live in
you.
that apple? It's all the
Well,
microbes, right?
well, thank you, sweetheart. I wish I had you to post some of that while I was trying to have a fit with these people. But I just wanted them to understand the connection that you eat not just because you're hungry. You
Yeah.
also eat for the nutrition that you're getting from the food that you eat. So you don't want to alter it. Everything that you ingest, you don't want it altered. Can I have anything with? And so it was something else.
Well,
It was a
by their
mess.
logic, though, anything that you eat would be dead unless you happen to eat it while it was still squirming.
And
And
because yes, thank you. Because I'm saying, well, you guys say you get protein from a dead animal. That's what you say. And now you're telling me the apple's dead because I picked it.
so, I mean, I know that we each have our perspectives. I remain an omnivore, even though I don't eat as much meat as I once did. I do work really hard to ensure that I'm getting it from a responsible space. And I
Yes.
no longer eat farmed fish, as one, for example. And my
Oh,
reason for not doing that is because there are concentrated animal feeding operations in the fish farming space as well.
yes. What
The
are they
animal meats that I
doing?
procure, I'm buying from regenerative organic farms, and I have to buy it, from out of state because there's none nearby where I am. It ships to me frozen. And then, I buy meat basically twice a year now. And so that enables me to make meat
But see,
meals
you
for my
had
family
knowledge,
periodically.
sweetheart. You had knowledge, and you were
And
able
it's
to
hard to
figure
come by.
that out.
People, they think that if they go to the grocery store
I
and buy
know.
something there, that it was, cattle grazing in a field, and that the chicken was free range, and that meant that it was like you would picture if you read Charlotte's Web on one of these small crop farmers, right? It's not like that anymore.
It's not. Do you know what I used to believe? Everything in that supermarket, I used to believe everything in that supermarket was okay for me to eat because my government had already checked it out, given the
Mhm.
411, and we're good to go. That's what I truly believed. And you're saying that right now. There's so many of us that still believe the same thing.
Well, and there's a sad reality too that I've just started to learn about recently. I do plan to cover this at some point soon on the podcast, but haven't been able to complete my research on it yet. And that is that in certain states, that the child labor laws are being loosened even more,
Yes.
so that
Yes.
14-year-olds are working at meatpacking plants
I
and
know.
they're working in these conditions, preparing animals
And
for our
dying
consumption.
sometimes.
It's just, we don't think about the impact that the way we're procuring and cooking food really has on our society as a whole. We
Yes.
don't think
Yes.
about it. And what we're trying to do with our current operations is drive the cost down, because this has gotten to the space where it's like meat is a commodity, right?
Oh, yes.
And so because of that, then what are we doing? We have farm subsidized corn, farm subsidized soybeans. These are all GMO crops. The GMO crops
Yeah.
are, have inborn chemical varietals that are not necessarily as healthy for us, that are then used to feed our animals. And it's
I
not like we are
know.
what we eat anymore. We are what our food ate too. So that's a lot of corn and a lot of soy and a lot of GMOs.
And they're
And
feeding it to the fish, the chicken, the cows, the pigs.
it's,
Everybody gets
isn't
it.
that amazing?
It is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every step along the way, here we are, we're subsidizing the growth of basically two crops, corn and soy, that end up in everything we eat, and then in all the processed food that we're marketing on the shelves. And then we wonder, why are we getting less healthy? Why are people getting fatter? Oh, well, the antibiotics that we pump into our cattle, they also affect our microbiome. And then our microbiome can't digest the foods that we're eating that are stuffed full of soy and corn. And it's gotten to the point where it's comical. Like, this is actually something that we should laugh at, but it's too terrifying to laugh at.
It really is terrifying. And you know what, though? It's right there available for everybody to see on YouTube. All you got to do, they have documentary after documentary after documentary that all this information that you just shared is right there. You got to look for it. You got to know what you're looking for.
You got to know what you're looking for. And then you have to be willing to wear a skeptic's hat. And I think that is the part that is probably the scariest for people, because as soon as you say, I'm going to be skeptical, I'm going to question it, that means that you actually have to do the work to find out more.
Yeah, you do.
And that is not actually that easy. So, it gets to a point where people are almost more comfortable, it seems, just looking away. And that's what I meant when I said looking the other way when it comes to where your food comes from. Because if you don't have to see it, then you don't have to worry about unseeing it.
True. So true. Wow.
So obviously, going vegan has affected you. And it's affected your lifestyle. It's affected your business. I mean, you have you have your own restaurant called Stuff That I Eat, right?
So I eat.
Yeah. So talk to me about this journey of becoming Chef Babette.
Wow. And I was, you're so funny to say it like that, because my mother used to say, you better learn to cook or you're never going to be able to feed your husband. And I used to think to myself, well, he can learn to cook himself and feed himself. I don't have to. But what happened was, once I met Ron and we just kind of started playing around with the food that we ate and making it taste as good as it tasted to us when we ate it the other way. And then I started like a little catering company and went to Japan to do some singing. And when I was over there, I did a lot of meditating, a lot of cooking, a lot of working out. Did the same thing I'm doing now. And the group I was with, they were practicing and writing songs and doing all that. And I knew when I got back to the States, it was going to be food for me. And then my husband decided to get involved, and then one thing led to another. And we were on the parking lot of the Agape Spiritual Center for 6 years with a 15-foot hot dog cart that we had built. And we started accumulating block-long lines. So we knew that it was pleasing to the average palate, the food that we were. So we were doing things like tacos, burritos, things that we eat every day. Now, and then when we moved into the restaurant, we had to come up with a soul food platter because we were in Inglewood and we didn't have any chicken or fish. So people would come in and be like, you don't have chicken, you don't have fish, you don't have soul food. What you got? And so I chased a lot of people out, bringing them back in to give away tacos. Come back in here. Let me share this taco with you. And sure enough, they would eat the taco and sit down and wind up purchasing a meal. It got to be pretty incredible because people really, really enjoyed the food, and there was no animal products near whatsoever, no refined sugar, no dyes, no preservatives. We kept it organic and fresh. We didn't feed them out of boxes, not a lot of cans, hands-on. And so that's what we still do today. And people are very appreciative.
Well, I love that. And those that are watching or listening to today's episode and who have a Netflix subscription may also have recently viewed a documentary film about twins from Stanford, or twins that participated in a Stanford research project, which put them on.
That one.
Okay, so this is brand new.
Was it a group of them? Several twins?
Yeah, several sets of twins, and they took all the twins and they put one of each of them on a vegan diet,
right?
And then the other of each of them on a healthy, planned omnivore diet, right? And
Yeah.
then they followed them over the course of several weeks. In the first set of weeks, they had to teach them to cook vegan and to eat vegan foods,
Right.
or to cook like healthy omnivore and eat that food, right? And so for that first phase of the study, they supplied 100% of the food that they ate.
Right. Right.
And then they go into a second phase of the study where they teach them to actually procure the food and cook the food that they're going to eat and do it on their own. And then at the conclusion of the study, they met with all these twins. They'd done full body scans to see where their health markers were. What was their weight? Did it move? What was their intramuscular, activity like? Did they put on muscle mass or did they lose muscle mass? And what about their visceral fat? And that was the big one, right? What happened with their visceral fat? And in all of the individuals that were on the plant-based diet, they had a more significant change in their visceral fat.
Did they really?
On the vegan diet. So even though the calorie counts were virtually identical,
Yeah.
they had a better health impact on the vegan diet. Carefully architected vegan diets, right? They also didn't lose more muscle mass. And so this is something that I had recently asked you when you came on the Nutrition Without Compromise show, because those watching on YouTube can see Chef Babette has some nice shoulder muscles on her. She has been able to maintain muscle mass into her 70s on a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And so there's all these people who come at you when you start talking about going plant-based that are fans of an omnivore or meat-based diet. And they'll say, well, how do you get enough protein to maintain muscle mass, especially as you age? Now, we can have a long conversation about this alone, but the reality is that plant-based foods have proteins in them.
Yes.
And when we mention things like soy and rice and beans, these things have protein in them.
Yes.
Getting more protein, you might have to work a little harder to do. You might have to chew more, but the reality being that you are actually likely to have better health outcomes if you do that, even than if you're on an omnivore diet that is healthfully crafted. Now, even the architects of the study said, look, if you are getting a wide variety of foods and you're getting your wild fish and you're getting these other nutrients, at the end of the day, you're probably going to have a comparable health outcome.
Mhm.
But the reality for so many is it's challenging to do that. And what I loved about this Netflix show was that they followed the twins into the grocery store. And
Yeah.
it was interesting to see the buying choices they would make on the meats and on the eggs and on the things like that. Because, as you and I both know, if you choose an egg and it has like a pale yellow yolk, it's not as healthy as one with a vibrant orange yolk. And it's harder to get. It's not like you see that on the external package, right?
Right.
It's harder to make choices based on what's purely on the label. So, those individuals were doing things like buying, chicken breasts in a styrofoam package with wrapped in
Were
plastic.
they really?
Yes, because that's how they sell it in the stores. I mean, let's be real
I need you to
here.
tell me just one thing. The two black girls, the
Hmm.
twins.
Yeah.
How'd they do? That I out of all of them, I really wanted to know how those sisters did, because they
Yeah.
were serious carnivores.
They were serious carnivores. They're
Serious
South African,
carnivores.
right?
Yes.
So they're from South Africa.
Yes.
They were caterers. So they work
Caterers.
with food. And
Yes.
the one that was on a plant-based diet was saying things like, oh, I'm not supposed to taste this. How do I even do the job? Because I'm like preparing these foods. And so, her sister who was doing the omnivore diet was teasing her.
Teasing her, yeah.
Of
So
course.
how did they pan out? Just please, just let me know. Did they do
So you
okay?
can watch the show. Maybe I should just say that.
See,
But
now you're gonna make me go back in.
no. Okay. It was actually really good. At the tail end, the vegan individual actually did have better health outcomes.
Okay.
She was the one who started lighter bodied too, though, but the impact of specifically visceral fat was better overall. And I think that what was really that was a really interesting piece, that universally
Yeah.
they had better health outcomes. Now, granted, they're going to the store to buy these goods in the tail end of the study, and they're fixing them themselves. So it's all how militant you are, right? It's how focused you are. It's how much you know. It's the type of foods that you're eating. Are you eating a wide enough variety of food to actually feel content and fulfilled? So, I mean, I think overall the impact was really, really interesting.
Cool. I'm gonna have to watch then. I was hoping that you would make me go back and watch, but I was also hoping you would tell me.
Yeah. So here's the documentary. Here's what it was called. The Netflix documentary, You Are What You Eat, a Twin Experiment.
Yeah, it was good though.
It was good. And
Yeah,
it
it
was,
was good.
it's actually broken into, I think, 4 or 5 episodes. So you don't have to watch it all at once. You can digest it piece by piece. I thought it was also interesting that they had selected a couple of guys who were cheesemakers. And
Yeah.
he's
How
going, I
about
can't give
that?
up the cheese. How does
Oh,
this
it was
work?
rough for him, right? The cheese. But
Yeah.
cheese is rough for anybody to give up.
Well, and then they interviewed Miyoko Shinner, who was the
Yes,
founder of
I remember
Miyoko's
that.
Creamery, as part of this effort as well.
Yeah.
And she is a vegan cheesemaker. So, I mean, it's possible to do this living without consuming
is.
meat and cheese. And
It really
I got to
is.
tell you today, the number of things that are available that make you forget that you would even miss meat is kind of astounding. I went to Natural Products Expo East last September, not this one, but the one before.
Uh-huh.
And there was it was like a little chicken wing, but it wasn't
Uh-huh.
chicken. It was a like tempeh based, soy based like meat with sauce. And
Uh-huh.
then for the bone, it had a sugar cane piece. So you could eat it and then chew on the sugar cane after if you wanted. And I mean, that was delectable. If I ate like that every day,
cool.
I'd be far too heavy, right? But the fact that some of these things are meant to be treats, they're not meant to, like, you don't
No.
sit down and eat a plate of it. That's part of the problem with
No.
America. We sit down and we eat a plate of chicken wings, and then we wonder why our waistband is like getting a little snug, right?
Okay. Yes, so true. But that's interesting. Sugar cane. Oh my gosh, I love it.
There are so many innovative ways to change how we look at food.
Yeah.
I would like to actually hear from you for a moment too about this bridge into your connection with Mercy for Animals, because we did get to feature AJ Albrecht of Mercy for Animals on this podcast and talk to her about their important work, which is essentially all around trying to improve conditions of animal feeding lots and things like that, and get us to all think about a more plant-centered diet as it stands. But what led you to that moment, and what was that collaboration really like?
Mercy for Animals, it's unbelievable, really and truly. They reached out to Stuff I Eat years ago. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't know who Mercy for Animals was. I had no clue. They really embraced Stuff I Eat and Chef Babette to the point where they pretty much put us on the map.
Oh,
Seriously.
that's lovely.
No, that's the honest to God truth. I didn't know who Mercy for Animals was. And just unbelievable, made the first videos with us that got like over 8 million views, and just nobody knew who Chef Babette was, or seriously, it was Mercy for Animals. So as far as I'm concerned, whenever, whatever Mercy for Animals needs from Stuff I Eat or Chef Babette, I'm there. And that is my connection with Mercy.
That is really lovely. I didn't know that.
That's the honest to God truth. Out of nowhere.
One of the things that surprised me, that I didn't know before interviewing AJ Albrecht, was that like they're pushing for things that are kind of no-brainers. Like they want to be able to have pens for the pigs that are big enough so that they can turn around,
right? At least
while they're nursing their little piglets.
Right.
This has to be through legislation, and this gets back to that whole concept. Like people just think that if it's USDA sealed and government regulated, that means everything's okay. It really doesn't mean that everything's okay.
It does not.
And if an animal doesn't even have the space it needs to get up and turn around,
is not okay.
No, everything
is not okay. And the abuse that these animals suffer, it's like it starts with self-love. There's no way, the way I love me, there's absolutely no way I could ever inflict that kind of harm and pain to any other living being. No way. And loving starts with self. So if you don't love you, you don't give a heck about that animal. The way that their methods of handling these animals is heartbreaking. It's horrible. But karmic debt. I mean, we all have to pay it at some point.
Yeah, we really do. So there are people out there that are giving some simple messages that I think everybody here would benefit from hearing us repeat. Okay, I'll give you one. Jonathan Safran Foer, he wrote a book. What was it called? Eating Animals. I think that's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's also written books on climate change. He also wrote a book, one of my favorite fiction works, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. This has also become a film, right? So he's a fiction author as well as a nonfiction author. And what he's a proponent of as a vegan is simply no animal products before dinner. And so if we are to communicate this broadly through our media channels to say, look, maybe veganism isn't for everybody, or maybe that's too hard for you to consider right now. How about let's just not do any animal products before dinner? And by making that simple change, then we're reducing the amount of dairy that's being consumed. We're reducing the amount of chicken, beef, pork, whatever, fish.
You just said it. We didn't have all of this meat being eaten years ago, and it wasn't a problem.
No, it wasn't a problem.
We're overdoing it. It's not sustainable. We don't have enough land mass. We need our forests. So you're saying it, even the cutback.
Even the cutback.
That's it.
It's a huge contributor.
Because
so
it's never going to stop.
Well, there's always going to be personal preference. And then there will be those people that just say, I just don't even want to. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to do things the way I've been doing them. And that's just a way I'm going to keep going in the track I'm going. And that's not to say that that's bad. I want to be clear with that. I can't judge you for your lifestyle.
No, and judging is not going to get us anywhere.
No, but if that's the case, if you even were to say, you know what, I'm just not going to eat an animal products in one meal a day. Right. And then you start discovering new foods that can actually impact your health in a positive way. If you start to consider something like what Dr. William Lee says, who has been on this podcast too, where he encourages us to look at meat as a condiment, which is more how the Asian culture really looks at meat.
I was just about to say, that's how they did it.
Right. Like you consider a shish kebab as a part of a meal as opposed to a giant steak on your plate.
We've gotten gluttonous, honey. We've gotten gluttonous. And we want
even if you go to eat out today, like I am hard pressed to go out to eat a meal and be able to consume all of it in one sitting. Right. We are just simply feeding ourselves too much. And then there's an environmental cost to that too. So if we shrink the amount we eat and we shrink our waistlines, then we are less of an ecological cost too. So I think it's just about being honest.
It is. It is. This is so important. I'm so glad you brought that up. That really is such a good answer to it. Just a cutback. How about that? Just a cutback. I love that.
Yeah. I still love my cheese.
Who didn't love cheese?
I still do.
It's the hardest thing.
And for me, it's, Parmigiano Reggiano and putting some of that on a marinara and like pasta. It's like, oh, that's so divine, right? So
we grew up with that.
Of course, so like, and as an Italian, that was something that was so rooted in culture. And so we can find new ways though, to replace some of these itches, so to speak. So this is a question I have for you because I have my own answer to it, of course, too, but I think we've kind of led there. I just wanted to know if you had a magic wand to wave, what you would change about our food culture.
If I had a magic wand?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, what a good question, girl. You always coming up.
I want the magic wand. Maybe that's why I'm asking you.
Well, I think what I would, I like what you said. I think I would probably change the fact that we don't eat animal animals at every sit down. I like that. I love that.
Mm.
I think that is, I think that would help a lot, in other words. So I think I'll steal that from you, and with my magic wand, I'd make that happen. We could only eat
Oh.
animal products one time a day.
So we'll
Yeah.
grant Jonathan Safran Foer's wish for all of us.
There you go.
I love that too.
I
That's
do
one of
too.
my favorites.
I mean, it's brilliant. It'll help. Look at, we got to do something. We have to do something. I mean, what do we do? You know, because nobody's running 100%. There's absolutely nobody that can stand back and point at you or point at me. It's because nobody's running 100. We're all doing the best we can, you know, and we grew up a certain way, and it was introduced to us a certain way. But to be able to cut it back, say, okay, everybody's going to be able to do what they like to do, but we're just going to be able to do it just one time a day. It's not going to be all day long. Maybe one time a day and only 5 days a week.
Right. Well, I have a couple questions about food to ask you, since you have this beautiful restaurant, and since unfortunately it's a bit too far for me to make my way there. I wonder if you would be able to share a couple of meals that you think are really easy to prepare in your own home that people could do plant-based if they wanted to give it a whirl.
Oh, honey, yeah. Okay, check this out. If you ever juice carrots, now I peel the carrots, I make sure they're really clean, and I take the pulp of that carrot, and then all the ingredients that I used to put in my tuna, I put it in the carrot pulp, and I make carrot untuna. It is absolutely delicious, and you can do that in the the comfort of your home.
So are you saying like a tuna salad sandwich type thing with carrot?
You can make salad, but the carrot pulp becomes tuna, like regular tuna salad, but it's made out of carrot pulp. So everything, all your sweet pickle relish, your mayo, you know, little onion, everything you put in your tuna, you're going to put it now in your carrot pulp. And pow, it is delicious. So I always add apple cider vinegar, a little agave nectar, of course, a little bit of Bragg's. I put some celery seed, and caraway seed, and of course, bell pepper, green onion, a little red onion, and mayo. Woo! And you got,
so it sounds like you're making a salad topper in a way, like something that could be integrated into any salad you make or in a sandwich.
It can be on the side of your salad. It can be a big salad with lettuce and tomato. And yes, that's an easy one. What's another really easy one I have there that I love? Make your tacos. Get yourself a wild rice blend or just wild rice. Wild rice, and season that bad one up with some Mexican seasoning and some bell pepper and green onion and that kind of stuff. And once you cook that wild rice is a grass. It's not a grain, it's a grass. So you could actually put it in the dehydrator in water and it will open up for you. But you make some tacos out of that wild rice. Ooh, child. That is the best.
Well, because you mentioned your juicer, I also have another solution for the fiber that gets left behind, because the juice I like to make if I'm juicing, I'll put beet and celery and carrot and sometimes another vegetable or two in there. But if I've done multiple in this one juice, right?
Yeah.
Then I can actually use the leavings as the base for a soup stock that I later create.
True.
And so it ends up being like a heartier soup stock because all that fiber is in there. And so it's a little more filling. And there's just other ways to use your food scraps beyond just composting them or throwing them away.
I'm getting ready to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a really delicious way to go. I will say too, when you talk about the tacos that you make in your Stuff I Eat restaurant, it gets me salivating. So one of the things I do with my boys is I just take taco seasoning with some firm tofu. I almost said tofu. No, and I just crumble it up just like you would with the beef stuff and put the taco seasonings in. And it is great. They like it just as much.
Stuff I Eat. The same thing you're talking about.
So just do tofu tacos with beans.
Tofu taco we have a wild rice taco, or then we have the blend, the tofu and the rice. So you're spot on. Tastes like
Yeah.
regular taco. You don't even know the difference, do you? Once you eat it, once you crumble that tofu up like that and season it.
Right. And got to tell you, hey, if you're on that path, then your visceral fat is going to shrink more than your
Thank you.
omnivore friend over there.
How do
So
your kids like it?
my
love
kids
it?
love tofu.
They love it.
And it's been surprising because my husband is such a kind of poo-pooer of that in particular. He's all like tofu, you know? But I just like when they're with me alone was the first time I introduced it. And because like I didn't want him overshadowing their experience, right?
Yes.
And because I did that, because I was like, okay, he's gonna poo-poo it. And then my boys who idolize their dad are gonna be like, oh no, I don't like tofu.
I don't like it either.
So instead I did it with them solo on a night when their dad was gonna be doing something else, right?
Cool.
And so we had our tofu tacos. And then the next time I prepared it was when their dad's the home too, right? Like, so I did the meat version and the tofu version. And my sons love the tofu version. So they're eating that. And then my husband turns his nose up at it and they're just like, you're crazy. This is good, Dad.
I love it.
Which is like, that's what I want. You know, I want kids that are going to have a broad palate, that are going to be willing to try new things and that understand that they don't have to go to meat every time they need a meal because of the way that our American perspective has been architected more broadly is that, you know, you need meat to make a meal and we really don't.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, my mother turned around. She was already had a stroke. She turned around. She could barely talk. Don't think I'm never gonna eat another piece of chicken. Yes, ma'am. She loved her chicken. So what can I say?
You know, what can you say? Different strokes for different folks, I guess is what it comes down to, right?
But I loved your one idea. It was the best.
Well, it's not mine. Nodding to Jonathan Safran for and
we'll
his
give
work.
it to him. It was a good one.
For sure.
Tomorrow.
Well, thank you so much, Chef Babette, for joining me today.
Fun to hang with you, girl. This was great.
I love having you on. And you were on my other show, Nutrition Without Compromise. We got a little deeper on some other sides of this then. But gosh, it's just been such, I think, a good conversation. Fun. My hope for people is that they can take one pearl of wisdom from today's conversation, integrate it in their lives, and perhaps they've just learned a little bit more about what it takes to eat and live responsibly. Now, I will be sure to include links to everywhere that we can find you, Chef Babette, which is at Chef Babette on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah, and then on Facebook is Babette Davis.
Oh, Babette Davis. Okay, great.
Beautiful day here in LA. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful days, beautiful people like yourself. You know, we've had a number of conversations before, and I've been blessed to be acquainted with you for a number of years, and have been inspired by you. I think every time, you know, we talk, I gain some amount of inspiration. You know, it's one thing to, you know, talk about, you know, eating healthy and what have you, but, you know, I think you bring a broader scope and a broader concept to this, I think a broader scope to this concept in every aspect of your life. And I want to get into this interview or discussion, or conversation, if you will, and to try to, you know, touch base on some of those things. But let's go with the obvious. I mean, many people have seen your videos. I think you recently celebrated your 72nd birthday.
71st, Doc. Come on.
71st. I'm sorry.
Hey.
Well, I lose track of time. 71. So you should have corrected my notes. I sent the notes. But you wanted me to make that gap so you can correct. That's okay. But you recently celebrated your 71st birthday, and I mean, my goodness. I mean, you're doing push-ups, you're running heels, and the like. Tell us what, you know. You're highly functional. What are some of the key aspects of your lifestyle, that some of the secrets of you can share with the audience, so that we can all aspire to continue to reach new levels? Because we should be getting better as our age progresses, but that doesn't seem to be the case with most people. What's your insight to that?
Well, I feel very blessed, first off, that at age 40, I met my husband, Rondo Davis. And on our first date, he took me to Griffith Park. And I'm like, I could barely walk the hills at Griffith Park, and he was slow running the whole thing backwards.
Oh, wow.
And I was not quite 40 yet. This was in the spring, and I was going to be 40 in December.
Mm-hmm.
And as I watched him, the thing that ran through my mind was, I'm struggling to walk up these hills. This is not correct. I'm only 39 years old, and this man is jogging this backwards. So I understood then something was not correct. And then as I continued to go up to Griffith Park, because I made a promise to myself that one day I was going to be able to do stay in a running mode, maybe at a walker's pace, but I was going to be able to run that hill one day. I promised myself that. And every time I'd go back up there, I would think to myself, if I was ever in a situation, I used to be a flight attendant or driving through mountains during the snow or whatever. If I was ever in a situation and I was the only person that maybe I'd be able to get us to help, would I be able to go the distance? Would I be able, am I strong enough to be able to pull myself up? Do I have enough upper body strength to be able to do that? And I ask myself those questions right today. I think about the people in Ukraine. They went to bed one night and they woke up the next morning to sirens and bombs. And you never know where you're going to be. You just really never know where you're going to be. And nobody can keep your body in shape but you. Nobody's gonna get up in the morning, go do the workout for you. When it's time to stretch, ain't nobody gonna stretch for you. When you need to drink enough water, ain't nobody gonna drink that water for you. It's like, hey, self-love, self-care, it's all on you, period, over and out. You know, you wanna know what your parents gonna leave you? They left you. So
Yep.
Do something with it. Let me get my manager off the line.
Okay, no problem. You know that part
I'm on
about
a Zoom call. Can I call you back?
exercise, but you,
Okay.
or eat right, but you. I've tried to hire people to do some of those things, and it didn't work. So I agree with you.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No, it's all on you. Nobody's going to do it for you. So, and that was in 1990, and I've not looked back. Now, that's not to say I'm not, folks. I'm not stamping 100% across my face. I ain't running 100 like none of us are.
Mm-hmm.
I have times when it's like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to do nothing. But the older I get, it just makes sense for me to keep moving, period. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, that's perfect actually, because it leads into the next question, because oftentimes people look at you and they see the success. They see you doing the push-ups and all the wonderful things and preparing the wonderful food, etc. And what I'd like for you to share with you, you've done it on some of our other shows, is the journey. Has it been smooth and without pitfalls?
yeah.
And if not, what has been some of the challenges and shortcomings?
Well,
Overcoming them.
I started off ingesting the standard American diet. My mother was a cook from South Carolina, and my mother, when she came out here, food just didn't taste, fresh veggies didn't taste the same to her, especially things like corn and peas. And so my mother decided, I'm getting ready to lace everything with sugar. So she put sugar in everything. Her spaghetti sauce was so sweet you could drink milk with it.
Oh,
So
no.
I was addicted to refined sugar as a young person. I had massive challenges. I was allergic to the dairy. I suffered with the asthma and the eczema, earaches, really, really horrible earaches. And so I couldn't do the dairy, but of course they weren't telling my mom that. They told me I was probably allergic to nuts. Yeah, but make sure you keep giving her the milk and the cheese.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I struggled as a young person with illnesses, and basically because of what I was ingesting. And then as I got older, I had a bout with using drugs. I got hooked on crack cocaine for a while there. And that was a massive challenge. Couldn't digest my food properly, always had really horrible gas, bad indigestion, acid reflux. I had it all the time. And go ahead, Don.
So you say you got hooked on drugs.
Right.
Was it acid and?
No, it was crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine. Now, when was that? What age?
That I was it was probably in the 80s. I remember I was still flying for Frontier Airlines. I was living in Denver, Colorado. So it was in the 80s. But let me just explain something to you. I got on it, but I was only on it because I was in a transition moving from Colorado to LA, and I was on it for about 7 months. But you're addicted as soon as you smoke it and get high from it. You're stuck.
But you mentioned your mother put sugar on everything. What age was that when you started eating?
That was my whole life. I was addicted to sugar until I got not in the 1990s when I met Ron.
So that was up into 40 years, but you said you're on crack cocaine for 7 months.
7 months, and it was the worst 7 months of my life.
How did you break that addiction?
I was sitting in my old bedroom in my mother's home, and I had just been smoking this stuff, and I was sitting there going through a piggy bank, and I had that voice came to me and said, "So now you go through piggy banks. That's what you do now. Oh, okay, you're a piggy bank shaker now." And I said to myself, "This is not me. This is not who I am."
Was it your piggy bank?
It was a piggy bank in my mama's house. Didn't matter at the moment whose piggy bank it was. Just had some coins in it. But I have not looked back. I got off that stuff and went and got myself another job with another airline because I had finally transitioned back to Los Angeles. And I remember getting my first paycheck from my new job and thinking to myself, man, I could get really high right now. And that God voice said to me, and mess all of it up, mess everything up.
Wow.
And I never went back. But all of everything that I've gone through, the child molestation, the spousal abuse, I've been picked up and slammed to the ground. I've had a man run my head through the wall. I have been cold cocked, knocked out, like, yes, butterflies, the whole 9 yards, completely knocked out by a man. So I've been through it. I've walked in so many shoes, but understand me, I have absolutely no regrets. This human experience has been just that. I've walked in so many different shoes. When somebody comes to me and they need a ear, or they need somebody to help them out, most of the time, I've been there, done that. I got your back. And I just believe that God gives us experiences so that we can be on our purpose. I really do now. I was never, when I was molested as a child, nobody ever penetrated me, thank God. It was always fondling something stupid. But it still is traumatic for a child. This started at age 5. So when the first child came to me and her mama didn't believe her, and she said, my daddy had a flashlight looking under my covers at night. Yeah, you can come live with me. I'm okay with that. I got it. I know what you're going through, even if your mama does not believe you. So, God puts us through what we go through, and we get it on this human journey, but it's all for us to be on our purpose. There's always a purpose.
It's a spiritual workout. I liken it to, and sometimes we get mad at God for putting us through these tough times, and we don't like them a lot, but it's a workout. It's like the trainer that you have that you pay money to.
There you go.
To work you out physically.
And it hurts.
Spiritually.
It hurts.
That's right. And he does it we don't even have to pay a bill. He does it for free. And we still don't appreciate it.
But I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to the journey. I really am.
So what I want to do before we move on is parallel the addiction. So you were aware of the crack addiction, the crack cocaine, when you were for 7 months. I think when you were smoking, you were aware that it was an addiction, or were you? I mean, let me ask you that way. Were you aware that it was an addiction? At what point did you become aware?
Well, the first time I hit it and my eyes went back in my head and I tried to step and my step was real. I stepped real. It was something I had never experienced. I knew right then someone right about this. And I'm gonna tell you what else I knew. Do you know I could scale a living room floor? I'd be looking for crack all on the floor, crawling around on the floor. I done smoked cornbread, I'm sure, cookie crumbs, anything that looked like crack. I'm gonna take it and hold it. And this is literally the way we behave. I say we, those people that have experienced that.
Sure.
If you find paint bubble on the wall that looks like a rock, everything you get all messed up in your head. Everything looks like crack. So you take the paint and then you're holding it, wait to get to a pipe to see if you can put that paint on the pipe and smoke it. Everything looks like crack. That's how demented you are. It's just
contrast that with your sugar addiction.
Well, with the sugar, I'm gonna tell you, there's another addiction I had that I'll contrast it with.
Sure.
Accent, MSG.
Oh, that's kind of
MSG.
That's the song.
My mother put MSG. I knew when there was a restaurant that didn't use MSG in their food. Let me tell you what I would do. I would get myself a Ziploc, put me some MSG in the Ziploc, take it to the restaurant, and when they bring my food, I'd sprinkle MSG on it.
Oh,
wow. Food tasted weird to me.
Wow.
If it didn't have MSG on it. That's probably why I'm a big Bragg's person today. I love Bragg's liquid amino. I love seasoning food with it, but it's a naturally occurring MSG.
Yeah. Wow. So
is that deep or what?
That is very deep. The thing is that because the sugar and the salt, as you said, are very addictive. Of course, the animal protein is addictive as well. And we know
the animals were. It was stuff like maybe cheese and stuff, but I wore braces. I had gaps in my teeth. Meat always got lodged in the spaces. And so meat was uncomfortable for me. I wasn't like beef and pork, and I wasn't doing that. But come on now, love me some chicken.
Sure.
I can remember when I stopped eating it. I can remember driving through churches to go get my wings and my it was something else I used to eat, biscuits and gravy probably. And something said to me, you don't eat this anymore. You're in the drive-through, but you don't eat this anymore. Now I can't stand to smell it. But it's so weird how your body gets all, so used to all this stuff.
Wow. This is amazing. You've gone through this whole concept, and you celebrate your birthday or your birthday anniversary every year with the whole world. How do you define age?
I basically define age as just another opportunity, another opportunity to wear a different face. I look at pictures of myself when I was 60 years old, and it's so I don't look exactly like I looked at 60. You know what I mean? I'm 71 now. People seem to think, no. Let me just say, I find it to be so amazing for us to be able to live in so many different to have so many different faces throughout a lifetime. I don't look like I look when I was 20. I don't look like I look when I was 60. I love the journey, and that's aging to me. Aging is moving through this thing called life and embracing every second of it, every aspect of it. And that is why you start to practice your self-love and your self-care, and you keep yourself up. I don't ever want to feel like I cannot get in the bathtub and get myself out on my own strength. Aging is better to me. Aging is knowledge. Aging is experience. Aging is just having what you need to keep it going. Aging is not fear. I don't know. That's what it is to me. Aging is just the best of life. It's all of it together, everything that you've learned. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing to me. So aging is not negative.
So that's the point. That's what I gather from that. You know, people think of aging and getting old. Well, I'm getting old, or I don't want to get old. But clearly what you have described is something that's very positive. And it's clearly, hold on, my cleaning lady's at the door. Olivia, I'm in a meeting on Zoom. Let me finish and I'll open it. So wait. I'm gonna try to get my daughter to open it. Give me a minute. Bye. Sorry. So life goes on. So the what you're describing is a positive aspect of aging, and and which really aging should be a plus. It should not be something where we are, afraid of, and where we are in a situation where we can, I'm getting another year, another ache or pain, or another medication, or whatever the case is. We should be in a situation to where, as we get another year wiser, more experience, we are better because we are someone that is more experienced, we're wiser, we have more to add to the universe, more to add to society. I think that's a very, very positive acclamation and a very positive definition. And I think we should all hold to that definition of aging, not the negative definition, not the negative connotation. Oh, you're getting old. Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm becoming wiser. I'm becoming more experienced. And the game of life is slowing down because I know what the plays are and what the different. And so I think that's something that's really important in terms of, I think it's the attitude that you have toward aging, not so much aging means this or aging means that.